Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I did get my hair stitched yesterday. I felt like I walked out of there looking exactly the same as I did when I walked in. But um, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those days, and I'm like, I don't even want to record. And that's what the topic is today. Don't be discouraged. Um, I don't know. I don't know, people. I feel funky. I just feel funky. Um, I have not been feeling good for like a month now, and I have been pulling away from digital devices. So I'm happy to report about that. Um, I've just been doing my podcast and I wrote a story about like my migraine story. I wrote that for American Migraine Association and turned that in today. But writing isn't a lot of having to look at the screen. I can type with my eyes closed. But anyway, I'm just plugging away, I'm just plugging away. And I have to go back to my sobriety program always and what it taught me about consistency. This morning's daily reflection was called Don't Be Discouraged. Do not be discouraged. And I was pointed out this by a fellow, get this, a fellow vestibular recovery person who is also in sobriety. Like there are unicorns out there just like me. And I was really excited. This person reached out to me on the Vestibular Disorder Association conference platform and said, me too. And it turns out we're sober about the same length of time. We've been dealing with vestibular disorder for about the same length of time. And I don't know, it's just cool. Like I told my husband, I'm like, oh, I ran across somebody who has both of his vestibular disorder and is in sobriety as well. And I don't know if he was doing something else at the time, but he was like, uh-huh. And I'm like, no, that's amazing. You don't get it. So he does get it. He was just, I think he was tired. We didn't get a lot of sleep last night. The wind was blowing really hard, which caused the English bulldog Boris, who once again is just so I can put is right beside me. There he is. He likes to do the podcast with me. um, so he is afraid of everything, including his own shadow. And the wind was blowing, so he was panting and wouldn't go to sleep. So I let him out of his what I call den. It's a crate, but the dogs sleep in their dens, and it wasn't happening last night. So I let them sleep with me, which means that I am up all night. Not because of the English bulldog. I let him out and he got into bed and passed out and was out all night. It's the Weimaraner. That's the problem. She wants to take over the whole bed. Anybody who has a Weimaraner, I know that you know what I'm talking about. And she's got to like twist and turn and all kinds of stuff. Oh, I just noticed I forgot to take her collar off. So I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I thought I was going to be really tired, but I was inspired to do some cooking today. So I've totally gone on a tangent, but that's fine. That's what I do here. So today I made it's an Indian. Is it Indian? Yeah, I think it's an Indian black-eyed peas dish, and it has peanut butter. I know it's weird. Peanut butter, onions, tomatoes, black-eyed peas, and some coriander and turmeric. And it was kind of odd, but it was all right. I found that in a recipe book. And then I also made spanakopita, and I forgot to put the garlic in, but that's okay too. And I made some juice. I made some fresh juice from what are called raspberry oranges. And I've never seen them before, but they're like raspberry color on the inside, and a little bit of lemon juice and sugar, of course. There has to be sugar. So that's what I did today, and I totally went on a tangent. So let's go back to the topic, shall we? Um, so I need to go back to sobriety. Whenever I start feeling discouraged in my stroke recovery, vestibular recovery, which are one and the same for me, I need to go back to what it was like in early sobriety and how I dealt with discouragement. Like, take away the self medicating alcohol, and I am stuck in myself with unrealistic expectations. Like, when I first got sober, and I always talk about that phase between taking away the alcohol, but not yet having the tools of the program because I haven't worked the steps yet. That phase of the program where I'm still thinking like an alcoholic, I still have the stinking thinking, and I don't quite have the tools. I talked about yesterday, keep coming back. That's because we need the tools, and that's how we start learning how to um, think more realistically. And in stroke recovery, vestibular recovery, I get in that same trap where I'm not thinking realistically. I'm catastrophizing. Um, I I want to fix everything. Like, think about sobriety for those of you who are sober. When you first get sober, it's like, I want to go through all the steps. I want to fix everything and I want to fix it now. Um, but that's not the way that it works. It takes the living the program in order to get through. The only way to it is through it. Um, Living the program in order to have things start making sense and fixing themselves, really. A lot of times I didn't need to fix anything. I needed to work on myself, and things became fixed as I did that. And I feel like I find myself in the same place with vestibular therapy. It's like I want everything to be fixed, and I can't fix it. This is something that I just can't fix. I can't snap my fingers and find a solution for this disability. It lives inside of me, and it's always going to live inside of me. Thankfully, I have gotten to a place I feel that I have accepted the permanence of my disability. But that doesn't mean, as I mentioned, I think last week or earlier this week, um, that doesn't mean that I have accepted the limitations of my disability, Like, when I start doing something and recognize that I just can't do it, I have a little bit of discouragement that creeps in. Trying to think of an example, like we're having our ceiling painted. So one of the painters came today to give us an estimate on how much that was going to cost. So once she did all the measurements and stuff, we sat down with her computer, and so my husband said that I was not able to look at the computer and he would look and just tell me what it said. And so, right when that happens, not because he shouldn't say that, he absolutely, I welcome him to say that to people. He's always good about really remembering to say it better than I am. I'm like, I'll just look, but it's not. It's those tiny little things that I need to stop doing. Anyway, when when I recognize that, oh, I'm not going to be able to look at the estimate, they're going to have to do it and just tell me what it is. I have a little bit of discouragement because I want to be able to do some of these little things, and I want instant gratification, and I can't have it. I can't have instant gratification with this disorder. When I want to do something, I have to do it slower, typically, meaning if I want to use my phone, a lot of times I've been bouncing back and forth between voiceover and not using voiceover, but using voiceover, which is what I should be doing all the time. I'm just kind of telling on myself. It means that I have to do things slower. And I just took my dogs out for a walk. I took both of them at the same time. We had a family walk. That's what we call it. We had a family walk. It's just me and the pooches. And and yeah, I get to do it, but I can't go out in the field and like play with them like I want to. I need to slowly walk around the block. Like everything is slow. My world has gotten a lot slower and a lot smaller, it feels like. And there is this connection between discouragement, the discouragement that I feel when I can't do something I want to do, and self pity, right? And um, I continuously fall into that self pity. Um, I have been able to notice it and have reached out for professional help and now see a psychiatrist because of that tendency to feel that self pity. Um, I think it's okay and it's understandable that I'm feeling that way. But one thing that the daily reflection introduced this morning, I don't know if it was the daily reflection or it seems like it might have been the reading that I had in my meeting this morning. Either way, was this idea of wandering across the God line. And what does that mean to me? Like when I start feeling discouraged and then it's like a slippery slope and I start feeling self-pity, I get into this area, this gray area where I'm not inviting my concept of my higher power in anymore. It's like as soon as I start sliding down that slippery slope, I slide down it alone. Um, and I leave my higher power like up at the top of the mountain. And I feel like I have to climb back up to him. And as soon as I'm able to surrender to the reality of my situation, accept the limitations and the slowness that are required in my life, then it's like I'm pulled right back up to inviting my higher power into my situation. Um, no matter how fatigued, frustrated, and discouraged I am, it is possible to keep my higher power right beside me. Um, and and when I do that, I'm able to live my life anyway, right? I'm able to continue to be solution focused, instead of trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, pushing back and trying to do things that I can't do, trying to force a situation that's only going to leave me not feeling well. Um, yeah, one thing that I was thinking of, that just came to mind because I was asked to write a blog for it for the Vestibular Disorders Association. It's a blog about going to the movie theater and listening to audio descriptions like a blind person. It's something that I have tried out, and I really want to encourage people who have vestibular disorders, as there is an option to still go to the movie theater if you have a vestibular disorder, and it's quite enjoyable. So instead of like forcing something to happen that clearly was gonna wreck my head, I my niece and I decided that we were going to go to the movies together, but I was going to listen to the audio descriptions and she was going to watch the movie. And I wore my sunglasses. I have a picture of us. We took a selfie, but I wore my sunglasses just in case I happened to open my eyes. And then I kept my eyes shut the whole time that I was sitting in the movie theater and I was listening to the movie. And it was so timely that with her watching the movie and me listening to the description of what was happening on the screen, her and I actually laughed at the same time, um, at a certain scene. And that was really freaking rewarding for me. It let me know that it's fine, Rachel. It's fine. Like, you can still be joyful doing things a little differently. And I'm able to see that kind of thing when I'm open to having my higher power still with me. And um so how do you do that? Like, I think that hope is the key. It's like if I if I I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? If I just sink into discouragement and self pity and I give up, I'm not open to creative ideas about how I can live life and be joyful anyway. And I am closing myself off to putting that little hope sticker on my mirror. Like you longtime listeners know about when I was in a really, really low time in recovery, I wanted to reward myself when I felt hope. And so I ordered some stickers on Amazon, some little star stickers, and every day that I felt hope, I put a sticker on the mirror. And the best way that I can get there, that I can continue to like have my higher power beside me, is to keep talking about how I feel. The more I'm able to go to meetings, go to support groups, whether it's sobriety, stroke recovery, vestibular recovery, the more that I'm able to talk about my feelings and what's going on, it is strengthening the foundation of my recovery. And sometimes when I come on and hit record and I feel like just today where I'm like, I don't want to do this, I feel like that's sending the wrong message. But it's important that I do that. It's important that I record when I don't want to, because if I come on here every day and I'm like, things are great. I love life as being dizzy all the time and having a migraine is amazing. Migraines are the new black, you know? Like, it's just not true. It's not conveying what I want to do here. There's a reason why there's not a lot of added hubbub to this podcast because I just want to come across as a normal freaking person that is unrehearsed and hope that my experience, strength, my transformation um long term and on specific days. Sometimes I transform from the time that I hit record to the time that I hit stop record, because that's what sharing my story does for me. And I know from my experience that listening to someone else's story has lifted me up when I need it the most. When I got a message from this individual that I recently met on the Vita conference website, and she said to me that she was also in sobriety and was in vestibular recovery. I don't know. That's what I needed to hear. That's what I needed to hear when I needed to hear it. There's a saying in sobriety about trudging the road of happy destiny. And I always thought when I heard that word trudging that it was a negative word. Trudging sounds negative, doesn't it? It's actually about steadiness and patience and persistence. Trudging is actually a positive word for how for traveling a path. And it as I do it, as I'm trudging this road, I see that the power inside of me is far greater than any fear that is inside of me. And the I get that power from my higher power. And this is coming from someone who had zero relationship with okay, we'll say 1% relationship with a higher power before I got sober. That's just what my recovery journey has looked like. And the way that I've gotten to a place where I have a relationship with my higher power, and it's gotten me to the point where I don't feel alone. Like I really don't feel alone. And I'm able to be patient and know that I'm on the right road is by just doing the same freaking thing every day. I do the same thing every day. It's no coincidence that when I started this podcast that I decided to call it the Recovery Daily Podcast because what I know of recovery is that it's every day and I have to do the same thing every day. And it can look different. Like the same thing can look it can be shaped differently and colored differently. But it's really the same thing that I know that if I stayed sober yesterday, then if I do the same thing, I'm going to stay sober today. And I try to translate that into my stroke and vestibular recovery as well. If I'm feeling okay, then I'm going to do what I did yesterday. The problem is that I'm not listening to myself with my vestibular recovery. And I'm going to continue to try to be gentle and keep freaking beating it into my head. Um, for those of you in vestibular recovery, consistency in vestibular recovery has not been easy for me. Um, it's hard when my symptoms are inconsistent, it's hard for me to find my own guardrails for how to behave during the day. Like I said, going on and off of um, voiceover on my phone is inconsistent, and it's difficult when I have the ability to use my eyes, yet it hurts. It's hard for me to find consistency there. It's kind of like I talked about the other day. People who are addicted to food, I really feel for them because they have to eat to live. With alcohol, I don't have to have any of it. I don't have to find like some happy medium where I get a little bit of alcohol and like I can't have any of it. And it's drawing that line that I really, really struggle with. Telling myself, okay, you can never use your phone again using your eyes. You have to use voiceover. I don't think that that's realistic because I can take a picture with my phone, like I can use my camera, or if somebody sends me a picture, it's fine if I look every now and then at, like, my daughter sent me a picture of her yesterday. And it was killing me. I have to see what she looks like. And she looked very pretty, by the way. She was going to a bridal shower for my niece. So, yeah, um, it's hard. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's hard. I don't have an answer. We're figuring it out in real time on here. So my challenge for you today is to think about how you deal with discouragement in recovery. And do you look at time as something that's working against you or a gift, something that works for you? So think about what you take away from this. I'm gonna keep trudging. I'm gonna keep trudging. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.